So today we have Professor Yonsoo Lee. Professor Lee is assistant professor at the School of Political Science and Public Administration at Shandong University. His paper is about trust, because we are studying trust in many research activities, but trust without cause, the predisposition of personality and the trust in government. Professor Lee will explore the relationship between personal traits and trust in government. He will also recognize the differences which are shaping perception of institutional government. He's using the Chinese survey data from the WVS survey, and his study is examining how specific personal traits influence trust in different branches of government. The findings reveal that extraversion is negatively associated with overall government trust. Agreeableness is positively linked to it, and neuroticism correlates positively with trust in courts and police. And he's highlighting the nuanced ways personality shapes political attitudes. Professor Lee is assistant professor at the School of Political Science and Public Administration at Shandong. He holds a doctoral degree from Rutgers University, a master degree from Seoul University, and his research has appeared in such journals as Public Personnel Management, International Review of Administrative Science, and Social Science Quarterly. Professor Lee, the floor is yours. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on this World-Based survey webinar. And my paper, the Trust Without Cause, subtitle is Predisposition on Personality and Chinese Trust in Government. This paper was published earlier this year, and then I'm assigned to present this paper around 30 minutes. And I can handle it in 20 or 25 minutes so that before I move to the main topic of the paper, I briefly mention about what I have done and what I'm working on this day in terms of the trust in government, because the trust in government is the main topic of today. Well, when I was the doctoral student, I wrote my doctoral dissertation about the Great Recession of 2008. You know, many of you are in the Europe, so you realize that how huge the repercussion of the Great Recession, the global financial recession around 2008. And then I look into the relationship between Great Recession, government performance, and trust in government. Because from my perspective, the trust in government is immensely important for sustaining and the developing the quality of governance. So I have been examining the kind of the determinants of trust in government, such as government transparency, social equity, job insecurity, decentralization, and gender equality using the Korean data, or gender equality using the Latino barometer. And then one of my favorite research is the how the World Cup can affect the trust in government. And at the time, I used I look into the World Cup, the 2014 affect the Brazilian citizen trust in government. And then in addition to this kind of the determinants of trust in government, I also pay attention to, I'm interested in kind of the outcomes of trust in government, such as citizen participation and preference for privatization. And recently I published a paper about how the trust in government relation to public support for government spending. And then now I'm working on kind of the paper on the media uses or financial performance affect the trust in government. And then obviously, the individual personality is one of the big impact. I mean, the cause that affect the citizen trust in government. And then I need to talk about my brief personal background and observation, because the main sample of this paper is China. Actually, I'm not Chinese. I'm a South Korean. And the reason why I'm talking about my kind of identity is that South Korea has been heavily influenced by the United States of America after World War II, because the United States of America defeated Japan, and then after that, the United States of America helped South Korea to defeat North Korea, and then after that, South Korea embraced kind of the American system, political system, economic system, and even culture. And then personally, I work in the U.S. Army for 2 years because the South Korea conference against the North Korea. So every young man served the army for 2 years mandatorily. At the time, I work in the United States Army in the name of Korean augmentation to the United States Army, so called the KATUSA. And then at the time, I learned a lot of things about the American culture. And then I was born in Seoul, the capital city of the South Korea, and I was educated for a long time, elementary, middle, high school, and college, and then the graduate school. And then I went abroad to the United States of America to learn the public administration, and I got the doctorate degree there. So I'm South Korean, and I'm kind of kind of get accustomed to the American culture and the way of thinking. Then after having obtained my doctorate degree, I got a chance to work in China. And when it comes to China, the relationship between China and Korea, for a long time, as a neighboring country, China, South Korea had been influenced by the China from, let's say, till like 19th century. And there are many dynasties for a long time, like Han, Tang, Song, Ming, or Qing. And then for politically or the economically and culturally, the most important the influence is kind of the philosophy. The reason why I talk about this philosophical influence is that South Korea and Japan and China kind of share kind of the commonality when it comes to the perception toward the government. For instance, the Confucius. So we South Korean learn kind of the Confucius, such as Gongzi, Mengzi, and then the view toward the government is quite different from that of the Western perspective. For instance, we use the term the 국가 in Korean or 国家 in Chinese, and that means that state home or state family. So East Asia people kind of consciously or unconsciously have a kind of the view that government is kind of the parents, whereas the ordinary citizen is kind of their son and daughter. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, is the Western culture, the Western civilization, they kind of view the government as the counterpart of the social contract. So it's more like a vertical relationship in here in the Eastern Asia. And then for the national level, the South Korea took the different path. As I mentioned, South Korea is being Americanized for a long time, around 70 or 80 years. But in the meantime, the China become a communist party, and they have their own way to run the government. And then I started working in China, I noticed very interesting things because, for instance, the main topic of today's article is trust in government. And to my surprise, citizen trust in government in China much higher than that of in South Korea or United States of America. And then it does not mean that the government performance in China is better than the United States of America. So it gave me kind of the unique, this kind of the experience and observation motivated me to write about China. For instance, another example will be in the United States of America, the American people tend to trust in their municipal level or local level government, whereas they tend to distrust in their federal level government. By contrast, in China, Chinese people, they tend to trust in their central government, whereas they distrust in their local level government. So I observed many interesting things so that it kind of gave me some idea to focus on the Chinese sample in the world-based surveys. So let's move to the main topic of the today's story. So, as I mentioned, that trust in government is one of the most important ingredient which the legitimacies and sustainability of a political system could be built and maintained. Accordingly, there are numerous researchers have looked into the cause of the citizen trust in government. As I mentioned, it could be transparency, corruption, inequality, or the decentralization, you name it. And perhaps the individual personality might matter in the explaining citizen trust in government. However, the citizen and the individual personality has received only a piecemeal attention as a determinant of trust in government. Therefore, to enhance the understanding of our the citizen trust in government, the goal of this paper is to examine how the individual personality accounts for the variation of trust in government. And as you know, that there are many different ways to perceive personality, and I chose the most well-established model, that is the 5 factors of personality model. And that is so to be more specific, the aim of this paper is to assess how the 5 factors of personality affect the trust in government. And personality, we have a personality, and personality, everyone has it, and refers to a set of distinguishing human psychological traits that leads to relatively constant and enduring response toward the environment stimuli. And once you have a certain personality, it's kind of hard to modify personality, and then sometimes the given the government performance, some people perceive that our government perform good, but on the other hand, some people believe or they perceive or assess the government perform bad, even though the government performance same. So probably the personality have a kind of the potential to explain their trust in government. And then trust is an intrinsic part of the personal characteristics, so that some are more inclined to trust, and some are more inclined to distrust. And then trust is based on expectation and psychological state. And basically, trust is the subjective. So it's not objective. So it may be possible that a personality can activate different political orientations, such as trust in government. And there are 5 types of personality. The first one is the agreeableness. Agreeableness includes the altruism and the tender-mindedness, and the agreeable people tend to regulate emotion to maintain a good rapport with other people and create a harmonious environment. And Mondag and Halperin argued that the most obvious political correlate of agreeableness is political trust. This is mainly because agreeableness includes the facet of propensity to trust. And you probably see that when you measure the agreeableness, sometimes the keyword trust is included. So it's kind of the total so net so obvious that agreeable people tend to trust not only for trust in government but also the trust other people as well. And then this kind of the congenital tender-mindedness aspect, agreeableness, make that the people tend to trust in government. So I said on first the hypothesis, the agreeableness is positively related to trust in government. And second type is the consciousness. Consciousness encompasses dependability and I'm sorry. What happened? Oh, can you see the PowerPoint? Right? Okay. Consciousness encompasses the dependability and responsibility, and diligence, hardworking, dutifulness, and deliberation, thoroughness and achievement orientation, vigilance, and tendency for rule abiding. And the conscious citizens tend to judge government by a high standard of criteria because they think government should be dutiful, disciplined, and competent enough to support citizens. So keyword for this kind of the key characteristics of consciousness is kind of high standard of criterion. This high standard of criterion can impede him or her to have a low level of trust in government because they often assess that government activities are not good enough to meet citizen expectation. So, given government performance, trust is inversely related to citizen expectation. Once the expectation is high, then given the government performance, trust in government is lower. But the problem is that the conscious of the people, they have kind of high expectation. So no matter how hard the government perform or they yield the output, they do not meet the expectation of these guys, these people. So the level of trust propensity of a conscious citizen is relatively low because of their high expectation. So I made a second hypothesis, which is the consciousness is negatively related to the trust in government. And let's look at the third relationship, extraversion and trust in government. Extroverts are social, assertive, bold, energetic, and adventurous. As a subcomponent of this trait, it includes warmth, gregarious, assertiveness, activity, excitement seeking, and positive emotion. And Pacino and Caprara found that extroversion facilitate political efficacy and indicate that extroverted citizens are confident that their input improves their political outcomes. Optimism that extroverted citizens usually pertains make people believe that a government reflect their citizen request properly and solve problem appropriately. So basically, this kind of the extrovert people give some benefit of doubt to the government because they are generally optimistic, I should say. So that I built a third hypothesis is extraversion is positively related to trust in government. And neuroticism and trust in government. And neuroticism reflects the tendency to be anxious, defensive, insecure, and emotional. It is associated with a negative affective, which refers to the degree to which an individual interprets the world in a negative term, as well as the tendency to experience the negative mood states. So basically, they are kind of pessimistic personnel. And neuroticism may contribute to disenchantment with the government. And the previous literature showed that neurotic citizens consider political decisions unfair. Therefore, having high scores on neuroticisms intrinsically distrustful of anything. So they don't believe anyone or anything, and they think that everything is unfair or something like this. So that my fourth, the hypothesis is neuroticism is negatively related to the trust in government. The last hypothesis about the openness to experience and trust in government. Openness to experience include fantasy, ethnetics, and feelings, values, and ideas and actions. And Mondag and Help Ring argued that citizens in high and openness to experience have a high levels of political knowledge because of their intellectual curiosity. Distrust often occurs because of information asymmetry. Citizens of the openness to experience personality are more likely to search for truth without prejudice or learn knowledge of what is happening of government. Sometimes we do not trust in government without certain, appropriate amount of the knowledge or information. We have a kind of the prejudice toward the government. But this kind of people who have openness to experience, they try to find out the what is happening in and out of the government, and this kind of the activity enable to them to trust in their government. So that I made a fifth of hypothesis, and openness to experience is positively related to trust in government. So how did I test these 5 hypotheses? In order to answer the research question, I used the Wave 6 of world-based survey, and because it contains the big 5 personality items. And correct me if I'm wrong, the Wave 7 of world-based survey does not contain the personality item for the latest version of world-based survey. So I rely on the Wave 6 one. And then due to the kind of the Chinese characters, I mean, I wanted to know what is happening in Chinese people, especially when it comes to the trusting their government. So I used the Chinese sample from the world-based surveys and trusting government. The item I'm going to name a number of organizations, which each one could you tell me how much confidence in you have in them, such as national government, Congress, the courts, police, civil service, and military. And the response answered a 4-point scale ranging from 1 to 4. And I reversely coded because for the easier interpretation. And then one of my kind of the view on this trusting government is that probably the citizens have different ideas or different opinions on government depending on the parts of government. So that when I analyze the data, I separately divide it into the dependent variable into the parts of depending on the parts of government and personality. And the world-based survey they follow the standard way of measure the personality, and the I use the of course 5 factors personality here. In addition to the personality, there must be some other demographic features that might explain this trusting government. So I include sex, age, education, income, and political ideology as control variables. Let's take a look at the main result. So overall government trusting government. Um, Contrary to my hypothesis, extraversion is negatively associated with the trusting government, and then agreeableness. You agreeable people they tend to trust in government, which kind of the conforming my hypothesis. And then sometimes the extraversion one, not only for the overall government, the courts and the police is also negatively associated with the citizen trusting court and police. So for now, well, I don't know why they do not trust in government. So that sometime in the future, maybe it is a good idea to have a kind of the conduct the interview or any other the qualitative study to figure out why extroversion is negatively associated with um, the trust in government. And then the consciousness is also contrary to my hypothesis. The consciousness I thought that is negatively related to the trust in government. However, the consciousness is positively related to trust in national government and the trust in military, and the openness to the experience is not associated with any of the trust in government. And then neuroticism. To my surprise, neurotic citizens positively related to trust in court and police. My interpretation of this result is that perhaps neurotic people, of course, they are generally pessimistic. However, they maybe rely on government because other than government in China, they cannot lean on other people. So that maybe that is because they are kind of the trust in the court or police. And the agreeableness is kind of the most strong kind of the variable that associated with trust in government is almost except the trust in police is all positively related to national government, Congress, court, civil service, and military. So this is kind of the this result kind of the confirm the hypothesis. Well, due to its importance, there are numerous literature that which look into the cause of trust in government. However, the research examining the individual personality to the development of trust in government is a relatively early stage. I read a couple of paper, only one or two. That's it. So this paper is kind of the contribute to the literature by adding kind of the evidence that personality um, doesn't matter in explaining the trusting government, partially, not everything. And then but this paper provides a more sophisticated understanding of the impact of personality on trust in different body of the government. The results show that not every single the personality have the same amount of the statistical significance in every single government institution. Depending on which government institution, they have a different association, statistical association. So it is in the future, we might kind of have a we can have a benefit in terms of the economy to understanding of trusting government by the divided up the parts of the government. And in addition to this kind of theoretical contribution, for government, more work needs to be done in articulating how citizens feel in order to better understand why citizens trust in their government. Of course, when I wrote this paper, it's kind of hard to write a practical implication because it is impossible. It is out of the question that a government can change the citizen personality. It's impossible. So that only thing that I can give some kind of the write about the practical implication is that maybe citizens are very diverse in terms of their personality. Probably in order to gain some trust in government, government may spend more efforts to figure it out. Kind of what citizens want for their government because even though the government cannot change their citizen personality, but it may be possible that a citizen can count in on the kind of the citizen preference when it comes to providing public service. Despite this kind of the theoretical contribution and practical implication, there are some certain limitation. One is the world-based survey is great the data source. However, it is basically cross-sectional, so that it's kind of unlikely that trust in government affect the personality. However, in order to clarify the more strong causal influence, probably longitudinal the data is needed. And then the results show that extraversion is negatively associated with certain trust in government. So I don't want to know why, because the quantitative analysis is good for kind of showing the general the trend. However, it does not give the detailed answer for why certain the outcomes is yielded. So probably in the future I can do some interview job for interview work for why the certain people trust or distrust their government. And that's it. Thank you for listening to my presentation. If you have any question, let me know.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee. Very interesting presentation. The data you are using is mainland China, or which countries did you cover?
Yes, I use the mainland China only. As you
People
know that
Republic of China, yes.
yes,
So you
that's
cannot say if this pattern is specific to mainland China or also available in other Confucian or other Asian countries because you focused completely on mainland China, did you?
that is true. So I only use the mainland China. As you know that in World Various Survey, there's a mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau. So
Yes.
that probably they have a different outcome because they are although they share a similarity across
Yes.
the Chinese people. However, depending on where they live, their political system is different, so that probably outcome will be different depending on which Chinese I analyze.
But it would be interesting to see if there's some Asiatic pattern of values, which is not only limited to mainland China, but also available in South Korea and other countries which have a similar culture, similar Confucian tradition, etc. So this is not for your research now, but in the future, it would be interesting to see if this is very specific for People Republic of China, or is there some Asiatic underlying pattern which can be found in future research?
Thank you for your advice because I thought about it, and then the reason why I do not compare, let's say, China, South Korea, or Japan, or any other Asian countries, that if I do that, I made a different hypothesis, and
Yeah,
then for now, it's kind of the preliminary the research. I mean, I published this paper. However, for now, I try to show that oh yeah, the personality is related to the trusting of one, and then from now on, I want to look into that. Okay, personality doesn't matter how, and perhaps the some Asian country people may different from the other region because that is one of the big advantage using the world-based survey because they have the well, let's say North America, the South
yeah,
America, and European. So that after I kind of study more about the kind of the cultural basis on the government, and then I I need to kind of set up the new hypothesis.
yeah.
But also the main is the personality and government, trust in government. However, probably there are other factors can intervene in the relationship. And then, as you mentioned, that it will be very interesting to see how the kind of relationship could be different in other country as well.
Exactly. Thank you. The next speaker is Professor Kuzina from the University of Kharkiv in Ukraine. Professor Kuzina is putting data together on trust in government in the whole of Europe. So Irina, please put your question.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed the idea of looking how types of personality are related to trust in government. And I was wondering, have you tried to count the ratio of different types of personality in Chinese society? I mean, what is a portion of each type of personality in society? And it would be interesting to compare with other societies. It was more like first question, and the second one, as far as I understood from your speech, that in China people tend to trust national government, but probably they are not like tend to trust local government, or I might be mistaken. If it's so, why do you think this is so? And have you tried to check what is the how type of personality related to trust in local government? Because as far as I understood, you checked this relation between national government and types of personality. So what about local government, and what about proportions of those different types of personalities in society?
Oh, thank you for your great question. And so for the first question, proportion of the personality in China, well, actually, I don't know because
Okay.
due to the lack of data on the
Okay.
personality, because of course the world-based survey, thankfully they include the personality item, but not that many survey data they include the personality item to tap into the personality. So without the concrete data, I cannot say that, oh, in China, probably the neurotic personality is 35. But I cannot tell that.
Okay.
Uh, but for the second question, that is that the trust in central government is higher than trust in central government is much higher than trust in local level. And from my perspective, due to the different political system, for instance, China is an authoritarian country, and then they somehow polish they kind of make kind of good images on the central politics, whereas and then local government they do not they have their own feasible public service. So the public as Chinese people have their own opinion, concrete opinion on certain, let's say, subway or public health or public education. However, let's say the diplomacies or the central level politics, they cannot have a concrete opinions on this. So, but in the United States, for instance, they blame the Donald Trump, President Trump, or any other Republican Party or the Democrat Party very easily. But they they tend to satisfy with their kind of their municipal level of government. So there is a big difference. And then I read some article. I can remember the name of the author. However, one of the strategies that the Chinese government is that the central government they try to let down. I mean, they try to avoid the blame toward the local level, and then as you know that there's no national level election in China. So one of the way that government uh, one of the way to make sure that government accountable is that the local government should work hard. So every single damn I mean, feasible, concrete the public service should be taken care of the local level government, and so that is a big difference, and that is one of the big kind of the eye-opening experience to me because I'm not Chinese, so then it is easy to find that even in the neighboring country, South Korean people, they blame everything for the central government, even the pothole in the road, even the kind of their local level, the government, they blame the central government or something like that. So the kind of big difference of the political system make a difference in perception toward or trust in the central government and the local government. But I need to, I mean, look into that too, because that is my kind of the impression on the trust in government for in China. But if I have conduct more research on that, probably I get more persuasive answer for that.
Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank you. The PI for the Wealth Survey in Mongolia, Dr. Tseven, is also thanking you for the presentation. I think this differentiation between trust in national government and local government is important in mainland China because if you look at the health crisis after Corona, after these lockdowns, there were mistrust in the local government and protestation against the local politicians. So there was public unrest, not against Beijing, but against the local mayor and the local leaders. So obviously, if people don't trust the government structures in China, there is a possibility to openly distrust or protest against local government, not national government, and also their elections. So in elections, they can also show their mistrust and unhappiness. So it's an interesting level thing that you can, the trust in the national government is always very high, much higher than in other comparative countries. But the mistrust and the political possibility to protest against the local government is there. So they were chasing these politicians and threatening to hit them and so on. So it was like in Western Europe. So I think there seems to be some possibility to express political dissatisfaction at the local level in mainland China.
I have one question, by the way, because speaking of the trust in central government and the local government, how's in Austria?
In Austria?
Yeah.
Yeah. In Austria.
I'm wondering what the Austrian people they trust in how there's a difference between trust in central government and local government in Austria.
In Austria is the opposite.
Oh.
The higher the level of government, the higher the mistrust. So the Austrian citizens, if they see in the city in Vienna or some village, they're trusting the local mayor and local politicians very much because they meet them. They go with them on some festivals and so on. Whereas the politicians in the central government in Vienna, they don't see them. So there's a distance. So what you have in Germany, in Austria, in many Central European states is there is a high level of trust in the local government, a medium level of trust in the medium government, and a low level of trust in the central government. So that's the pattern which we can see in Central Europe.
Oh, that's
Okay, are there any other questions? There's one. ZN saying Mongolia is the same like Austria.
yeah. I'm wondering.
So Mongolia is the same, high trust in the local politicians, low trust in the central politician.
Then it's kind of unique to see that this kind of trend. I mean, low trust in local level and whereas high trust in central level in China because I saw the same pattern in South Korea as well. So probably China is only have unique case when it comes to the trust in high trust in central government and low trust in local level government. Anyhow, that give me another research topic. So that
Of
was.
course, of course. But you asked me about Austria, and and also before Claudia is coming, the team member from Austria. Also, the higher the level of government, regional, national, European, the higher the distrust. Because they know who is in Brussels. They don't know them. They don't meet them. We don't trust them. They're just robbing us and taking the money. So you have in full-scale liberal democracies who have high trust at the lower level, and this trust goes down the higher the level of abstraction and level of government. But Dr. Palti is a leading researcher in Austria. Maybe she will correct me. Please start.
So thanks for your fascinating insights. It's very interesting to hear that. I did about 40 interviews in this Troiden project with politicians on the different level, like local, regional, and national, as Christian said. One thing which is really important is liability, because politicians say, if I promise something, then I have to keep it on the local level, because they see me biking and say, why didn't you, and so on. And on the national level, you don't have this closeness to have a liability. So this is in Austria or in many European countries, local politicians can be touched. You know what I mean? They are very close. They are living a normal life. They have their jobs and they can be approached at any time. So this is completely different to the national level. And because people on the local level, mayors, they also want to be voted again. So they have to stick to their promises. So this is something which is, it's very interesting, and that is so many differences. But I ask myself, you always mention it's recurring personality. So I'm not the Chinese specialist, but it's like people, when we talk of Chinese personalities, it's making concessions, seeking compromises, avoiding direct confrontations, prioritizing group harmony over the individual desires. Is this maybe some kind of trait inherited or things that may lead to your assumptions?
Well, a very quick question, because sometimes the personality is formed because of their individual characteristic, but because sometimes the societal atmosphere and China and maybe the neighboring country, Japan and Korea, they are more compared to the Western countries such as Europe. We are more likely collectivism. So we, I do not mean that we do everything for society. However, we tend to think about society first and the individual later. If it is the case, and the kind of the having a harmony is kind of the top priority, especially in China. And so probably, of course, there are some different personality for the individual person. However, even though they have a personality, they kind of they subdue. I mean, even though they express their opinion or they but they try to not to express their opinion openly because kind of their social atmosphere. But the world-based survey is kind of when they ask the respondent, they guarantee their full credentials. So probably when they check the answer, especially with trust, maybe the kind of the social atmosphere has not that substantial impact on the trusting. I mean, relationship between personality and trusting government. However, as you mentioned, that perhaps the kind of the social climate or social the atmosphere may affect the how the personality works. So especially I think that a personality when it comes to the relationship personality and citizen participation, they really matter. Because and then well, of course there are other factors anyhow, but whenever I went to the Europe or the America, I see that they have a different value. And then they kind of of course they're world based, and then they kind of different value. Um, kind of the
At first, sorry to interrupt you, when I read the title about personality, I asked myself, for me, it's a contradiction in itself because in China, personality is not desirable, is not being desired by politicians. So maybe it's linked to kind of cultural things which go back centuries, and maybe this authoritarian regime. So in Austria, you say, like in many European countries, we are very egoistic. So we say, what can the state do for us? I don't have any job. What can the state deliver to me? And I have to be in the first row to get that and that. So that's maybe a difference. But yeah, it's very interesting.
very interesting. I mean, that gave me some kind of research idea. Quite different. And then I'm sure that thank you for your opinion and thank you for your question. Yeah.
Happy that I could create some ideas. So this is what the exchange is for, that we like take some other comments from people, and I take something from your talk and rethink things like I've never thought before. So thank you.
I think there's a big tradition of collectivism and individualism in different societies. And if you look at airports, if there's a plane from China, they all together very closely behind some person with a flag. There's no space between these tourists. If you have a group of Italians, they're all in different direction. So it's difficult to keep them into one place. So there is a cultural tradition of public unity, public and so on. But the interesting thing about your study is you look at personality. And the question also by Xenia is, if you look at trust in government in, say, European democracies, is it then as an influence, it's not research, but because we have these big five questions, can we see if neurotic people are more mistrusting because they say, I don't trust anybody, I don't trust the government. And if people who are optimistic and upbeat, they say, oh, it's all okay, they are trusting higher. So it would be interesting to see how these five types are working in other societies, if there's a link between psychology and trust in government.
That's true. That's very true. And then that's why the comparable study should be needed. And then in the future, I'm going to reflect what you said to my further research.
Yeah, because not many people study this link between psychological typology and trust behavior. This would be a very innovative, interesting topic, which can make you famous because this big five we have not in all waves. We don't have it in wave 8, but we have it in wave 6, I think. And so this would be a good case to see, is your psychological predisposition being optimistic, pessimistic, skeptic, being narcissistic? Is this influencing how you trust government?
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Are there any other comments, question to Professor Lee? But anyway, because we don't think very much in these categories, we study mostly gender, age, education, urbanization, how this influences trust. We don't study very often this psychology of trust, but it obviously plays a role. It also plays a role in socialization, how you get citizens who are trusting by socialization, by your family, by the teachers, by your school, by your priests, by your friends as teenagers. So all these agencies of socialization then have a result when you are 21 that you trust the government or not. So I think it's a long process of political psychology.
Thank you for your comments. I
You
will.
see, you gave us very good ideas, and we are all very excited to think about it. Because also in wave 6 we have it, so we can test some of our questions by using wave 6.
That's very true. Yes, true.
Okay, 3 minutes left. Any famous last words about optimism, pessimism, and trust?
Well, let me think about it. Well, but right now I don't have a concrete answer for that, but I will. One of the future plan for the trusting government personality is that the personality doesn't matter. But when I look read any other the academic articles, not many people because there are not many survey tap into the personality. But in the future, it is if it is possible, but maybe it is a good idea to incorporate personality as a at least control variable when they see the key independent variable affect the trust in government. Without kind of this kind of the key the factor we in here in personality, we can say that we cannot say for sure that the relationship with this or that because basically trust in government is subjective and very personal. So then I hope that in the future, not only for me but also for the other people, can include the personality as at least the control variable to look into the variable affect the trust in government.
And also, I think your idea about the qualitative test is very good because if you look at trust of a child in terms of Kohlberg, in this development of trust in your parents, in your family, as part of when you are 5 years old, 10 years old, you develop this sort of ur-trust, basic trust. That the family is good, they're not bad to me, and then this is moving them into generalized social trust, which means which we also measure. Do you trust your neighbors? Do you trust in general colleagues from the faculty and so on? And so this is a very important psychological maturation of social trust, family trust. And then the question is somebody who has very good family, very good friends, very good school, then also trusting the government or not? Maybe this person is then trusting the family, but say, I don't trust the president because he might do bad things. So that's a very interesting link between qualitative study and quantitative study, between psychology and political sociology, if you want. And because if people are having bad experience the whole life, if they are neurotic, then maybe they are mistrustful because they say, my parents were hitting me, my teacher was hitting me, my teenage colleagues were stealing my mobile phone. Why should I trust the president? Because they have only bad experience. So there might be some political socialization which is then producing mistrust in general. And this is where your research is very good between disciplines and between quantitative and qualitative research.
Yes, good idea because yeah, the social trust is also closely related to citizen trust in government. I'm sure that personality is associated with the social trust as well. And I think that um, the reason why I kind of the mumbling is that you gave me a lot of good ideas, so I wrote down so that I'm in the future probably if I wrote the paper about the personality and social trust is because of your advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You inspired us a lot. So you can see we get all excited because we don't talk normally about neuroticism and optimism and so on, because we are more sociologists and political scientists.
That's true.
Okay, so I would like to thank you, Professor Lee, and I would like to thank the audience for their interesting question. I think it was a very good talk between disciplines, between different political systems and level of governance. Thank you very much.